Hi guys, welcome back to the Gray Space. On today's episode, I am so excited to welcome on Kelly Nash. Kelly is a Chicago-based career coach, writer, and speaker dedicated to helping high achievers achieve clarity and confidence to make meaningful career moves and find fulfillment in their work. With 15 years of professional experience in the marketing and technology industries and currently serving as an employee engagement manager at Salesforce, Kelly combines her corporate expertise with her passion for empowering others to take ownership of their careers. Her unique corpreneur perspective and consulting approach, coupled with her expertise in job search strategy, personal branding, and professional writing, has yielded countless success stories. Her clients have secured coveted positions at companies including Google, Hyatt, Oracle, L'Oreal, LinkedIn, amongst others. Her work has been featured with General Assembly, International Association of Women, and Thrive Global. Kelly holds a degree in advertising from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and in her free time, you can find Kelly traveling, out in nature, trying new restaurants, or chasing after her toddler. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. Are you staying warm today? Or trying at least?
Yeah, luckily trying to. Yeah, it's been a pretty brutal winter, I would say, here in the Chicago area.
Hopefully, this is like the last week of like the worst of it, and then we'll have some normal 20-degree balmy temperatures soon.
That's the hope.
Did you have a good holiday and New Year?
I did. It was very good. It was nice to kind of unplug from work officially. I took that whole week off in between
Good.
Christmas and New Year's, which was great. So, just getting back into the swing of things now that we're almost to February here.
It's crazy already this year. I can't believe it.
It's flying.
Well, I know you're super busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Just from reading your bio, I'm sure listeners can only imagine how short of time you have. So I'll get right into it. Just kind of to start, I'd love to kick this off by talking about what you wanted to be growing up. What were some of your favorite subjects and passion points as a kid?
Yeah, that's a good question because I do think everything kind of goes back to your childhood, especially when we're thinking about careers. Like I'm always talking to my coaching clients and asking them like, what did you like to do as a kid? What interested you? What were you curious about? Because I think it is very telling to, how that shows up in your adult life. And that has really showed up for me specifically. So I loved English and writing and creative writing in school, always loved the right brained typed subjects. And I like to say that I was a writer ever since I picked up a pen and knew how to start writing. So I just really got into reading books and, losing myself in the stories growing up. And that turned into a love of writing myself, of poems, short stories. I like to say I wrote a couple quote unquote books during my childhood that I got super excited about. And one of my favorite books growing up was Little Women. And I just admired like the main character, Jo, so much. She was a writer herself. She had a ton of gumption. She was, kind of doing things that were not necessarily typical during her time. And I really admired the way she showed up. So I've taken a lot from that book and that character into kind of my adult life and into my corporate career as well.
I love that. That's like a classic book that I've never read, and I might need to add that to my list for the year.
It's great. And there's so many like iterations of that movie
I was
too.
gonna say, I just saw Little Women Christmas that came out on Amazon Prime. That's on my
Yeah,
watch list.
there we go.
I love that. With that, kind of, let's talk about school. Where'd you go? What'd you study? Were there certain classes that really resonated with you?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and I went into school very intentional that I was going to major in journalism. Again, going back to the writing, I knew I wanted to write in some shape or form in my career. So that's what I decided to pursue. But then it was kind of during the economic downturn of the late 2000s, where, the newspapers and magazines were going out of business and things like that. So I had to really take a step back and ask myself if this was sort of a career that I really wanted to step into, knowing that there was a lot of volatility and change going on. So instead, I redirected my passions toward advertising. So I took a, advertising 101 class my freshman year of college, and in doing so, I sort of recognized that I had, more curiosity in that space, and there was an opportunity for me to still be creative in a sense and utilize some of more of my business type skills. So that's sort of how I got into my corporate career of advertising specifically.
And then I love how you kind of touched a little bit on the transition there. I do think that navigating post-grad life can just be incredibly daunting and just confusing, not really knowing what's next and how to structure the time or the days, and not really kind of having those like built-in support systems from like academic advisors or professors to turn to. Do you have any advice for upcoming and recent grads?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, again, I graduated in a time that was very different than what we're navigating now. Like, there's a lot more, I guess the job market's probably just as poor as it was when I graduated, but now we have this extra layer of AI and trying to find your footing there. It's changing the way we work, changing the way roles are structured. But I would say, like, obviously keeping a pulse on the market of those high growth roles and still staying true to who you are and what you want to do as well. I think there is a lot of noise, on social media and the media, etc. But I think especially as you enter the real world, it's really important that you trust yourself and that you know yourself best. So just continuing to stay in tune with yourself, listen to your intuition, and trust your gut, and follow what it is that you actually want to do.
Are there certain roles that you think right now just are top of mind for employers that you're seeing on your end or that you've been recommending to clients to look into?
I mean, honestly, any roles that involve AI, right? So like the more technical type roles that are helping with AI prompts and building the actual AI are gonna, we're gonna see a lot of growth in those types of technical type roles. And then, at the end of the day, like, we're always gonna need sales too. Like, AI can't effectively go out there and sell like humans can. And I like to think of sales as a human to human interaction and collaboration. So I think sales is going to continue to be a role and a field that we are always going to need people, like from a corporate standpoint. And then, outside of corporate, the trades are growing, right? Like, we're going to continue to need people in the trades and those types of roles that AI effectively can't do, at least yet.
Right, yeah, the key word. It really is going back to like that human touch on things
Yes,
that AI just can't replace when it seems to be essentially replacing so many things already.
exactly.
But just staying current, I think, and staying sharp is all you can really do in the meantime to combat it.
Yeah, I agree. You have to stay on top of it and just like I said, keep a pulse on it and upskill where you feel like you might need it. So if people are listening and are currently job searching in this market, I think it really is important to look at those job descriptions and identify like where you do may have gaps and how can you work to fill those and, reflect that in things like your resume and your LinkedIn to showcase that you are on top of what's happening in the market and you can effectively speak to what's happening as well.
Got to be your own advocate. No one's going to do it for you.
Exactly.
Kind of pivoting a bit. I'd love to talk about your own creative outlet, your blog. How did you really get the idea to start your original blog?
Yeah, so my blog is called Lipstick and Ink, and I like to always talk about always talk to my clients too about the fact that you don't have to always find all of your fulfillment in your role or in your job, right? And I was at a point, 8+ years ago where I was liking my job, but I was sort of like, I feel like something's missing. And I wasn't really doing any writing at that time. And I had kind of recognized that. And I realized, what can I do to like get some fulfillment maybe outside of work where I can get to writing and still like help others too. And I really feel like I had climbed the corporate ladder throughout my 20s at that point. I had this very successful job at a successful company. I was freshly married, and it wasn't really until I saw an acquaintance of mine launch a blog of her own that really something woke up inside of me. And it was very obvious that I was envious because I had put off writing for so many years as I was climbing that corporate ladder, just due to fear and self doubt that I had encountered, in my college years, early 20s. And I was a little bit jealous that this woman was launching a blog of her own, getting a lot of praise and excitement over it. And I had really never gotten that before when I had done similar things. So I just decided in that moment that I was done letting external influences overpower me and stop me from doing the things that I love to do. So I decided I'm going to start writing again, and I want to turn that writing into something productive and help people along the way too. So I started my career blog specifically for women, so that I could not only share my experiences navigating the corporate world myself, like how I had overcome burnout and advocated for myself, made my own career moves, but also help people that were feeling stuck or burnt out or undervalued in their own careers, and kind of help them realign themselves to build a more meaningful and fulfilling career. So that is sort of how Lipstick and Ink was born.
And I love that the point that you really touch on too there is the fact that like you're not going to find all your fulfillment from your day-to-day work. I think that sometimes like gets people caught up in the fact that like, okay, like I need to love what I do every day, like, and I'll never feel like I'm working a day in my life. But sometimes like you can reframe viewing a job as a means to an end right now, and then also it's what kind of empowers you and sustains you so that you're able to devote time to your passion projects, your additional pursuits outside of those walls that then make you show up better at your day to day.
Exactly right. I actually just wrote about this maybe a week or two ago too, about again, like the market that we're in right now. Some people that have their jobs might want to be staying put, even if they're not fully fulfilled or like loving the work that they're doing, but it's giving them the stability that they need in the market, and it's paying the bills, right? So while you're doing that, it's like, okay, can you look outside of that corporate role box and ask yourself, like, what else could I be doing that I really enjoy? That you don't have to be paid for it necessarily, but
Right.
just things to just fill your cup and do things that you're excited about and that fill your day beyond the monotony of your corporate role.
And identifying what that looks like for you at the stage of life that you're in too.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
With that, I would love to just talk about navigating meaningful career moves. I would love to chat further about your pivot from the advertising industry to tech. What really prompted this initial shift?
Great question. Yeah, so I've been in tech now over 11 years, at the same company at Salesforce. But prior to that, I was in the ad industry for, I want to say, just under three. And I've always been someone that's just looked for those growth opportunities and wanting to be on the cusp of change and pushing my limits and my potential. So after working in the ad industry, I was pretty burnt out, also kind of bored, and I just realized I was itching for a change. So I began seeking out jobs that were still advertising specific, but more in the ad tech space that would blend my advertising background with the emerging technology. So I was essentially able to do that and craft my story in a way of like, here's the advertising experience that I bring, and this is how I can apply it in the tech space. So it was a really nice bridge to help me move industries essentially.
How did you know that this was the right next move for you? Like, what was like, was there ever like a starting point, or was there kind of just like a pivotal moment at work to where you're like, okay, like I'm going to make this shift?
I was bored, and I looked at my, historical experience and said, okay, I got the advertising agency like experience, which was my first role out of college. And then I moved into ad sales as an account manager. So I felt like I had touched the ad sales side of the advertising industry, but then the third pillar of that really was the ad tech side. And again, this was like the early 2010s where tech was booming, Instagram was coming out into the fold, and I was like, I want to be a part of that, like the social media aspect of things. So that's when I really started pursuing jobs that were more in the tech space, because again, I was keeping a pulse on the market, assessing my experience and where I felt like I had gaps, and pursuing the things that would fill those gaps, but also fill a market need as well.
Any advice on helping individuals get there when they're not really sure where there is? Like, any advice you give to individuals unsure of their next move?
I mean, that's the bread and butter of the work I do as a career coach, honestly. And I think the first step is getting to that foundational block of career clarity, right? Like that really sits at the bottom of everything. And if you aren't clear in what it is you want to do, it can be really hard to articulate your value and position yourself effectively in the market. So I'm always working with my clients on getting back to the foundations of what do they value in their work, in their life, what is missing from their current role or company or career. What are the non-negotiables that they absolutely need to have in that next, role or company? And once they have kind of identified that, it's then assessing their skills, right? Like, what are they really good at? What comes naturally to them? What are they excited or curious about? That kind of goes into the interests pillar. And we kind of bring that all together and do that work through, personalized worksheets, and then also like career assessments, personality assessments. So we kind of take all of that and really work together and partner on what could those future career paths look like for them.
It's hard. It's hard to get there on your own when you're not sure where there is. And I do think that that's really where it comes to fruition, to really seek those experts or seek people that have done it themselves to be that sounding board to help guide them through the journey, as opposed to just like spiraling in your head or trying to navigate this volatile job market, early career pivot space on your own, looking to those that can help you get
Yeah,
you
and
where you
I
want to be, as an investment in yourself and in your future.
I agree. And I was gonna say too, like when people are spiraling and like not really understanding like what they actually want to do, that's when I see those folks like constantly just like mass applying, which isn't really a great job search strategy in my opinion. And I am heavily encouraging people not only to seek like a professional like a career coach in times like that, but like also just to start talking to people that have been in your shoes before and maybe are a couple steps ahead of you that you admire or you just want to learn more about. So I definitely always recommend like instead of applying, spend more of your time talking to people and connecting with people that are already working at your target companies or in your target roles, and just asking about their journey. How did they actually, position themselves? How did they get to where they are? Because I do believe like getting that personal insight really does help you identify too, like what is actually something you want to do and what it is you don't.
Right. So you're not ending up in the same situation, just a different
Exactly.
desk.
Yes.
It's just with all that you do, I'd love to just talk about what a typical day in your life looks like. How do you structure your days?
That's funny. There is no
There's no structure.
typical day. I mean, I think everyone would probably say that, honestly. But it does usually start with my husband and I like getting ready for the day, getting our son out the door to go to school. We both work from home, fortunately, so we are able to like spend a little bit more time with our son in the mornings, which is really nice. And then like when it's not frigidly cold outside, I like to make time to like go for a walk or get a short workout in before I start the workday, or even, taking a break during the workday for that. And I'm usually working my corporate role, from the traditional like, 9 to 4, 9 to 5. And then I'm usually taking a coaching call like after the workday. And then I'm picking up my son from school, and then we do the whole, you know, dinner bedtime routine. And then after he's asleep, I am getting back on my personal computer to do more work on my business or do some writing. And then I'm usually ending my day pretty late at night. I'm a night owl by nature.
Okay. Different than me.
Yeah. So, I try to get some work done for my business in that time. And then once I'm kind of maxed out for the day, I try to read a couple pages in a book, and then I call it a night. So I do work a lot these days, I'll be honest, just because I am balancing basically two jobs. I'm working the corporate role, I'm running a business, but I like to tell people it really doesn't feel like work because I really do love the work that I'm doing in my job. And I obviously love the work that I'm doing in my business. So it doesn't feel like work, which is good.
I love that. And that's what energizes you. And that's what like is part of your night routine as opposed to just like turning on Bravo or something like that. Like finding the things that really light you up and that you would do just because when you're ready dead
Exactly.
from the day. Um,
Yeah.
any book recs of what you've been reading lately or just like book recommendations that you think are like must reads beyond Little Woman?
Uh, well, I mean, I'll be honest, none of the like nonfiction self-help books are coming to mind because I've kind of taken a break from those as of right now. I've been trying to immerse myself more in fiction because for the longest time I stopped reading fiction and I was so focused on just like, the self-motivation, business type books. But I feel like especially in times like we're in right now where there's so much getting thrown at us, the job market's not great, the economy is kind of questionable. There's a lot going on just at a macro level. I just like to lose myself in the pages. So right now I'm reading the Fourth Wing series, and I read the ACOTAR series prior to that. I've been reading like the Frida McFadden thriller books too, just to kind of like, I don't know, add some more spice to my life, and just lose myself in those stories as well.
I love that you talk about that too, because I feel like I was the same way when I first got back into reading. I was like, oh, it has to be like purposeful. It has to be for a reason. I need to be productive. But I want to read at night. I want to turn my brain off. So yes, just reading just
Exactly.
because like reading's good for your brain regardless. Like,
Yeah, there's obviously a time and a place for those more productive books.
yeah,
I mean, I honestly one of my favorite ones that I've ever read that I could read over and over again is Atomic Habits, and I feel like that's pretty relevant right now to the beginning of the year, like where people are trying to start new habits. I feel like that book is just full of goodness and great tips and things that you can use to better your life and the habits that you have in your life too.
agreed. Um, with that, like, what are some of your 2026 just overall goals, career goals, and intentions?
Yeah, great question. I've been thinking a lot about that. Like, I took the first couple weeks of 2026 to kind of just decompress and just process the last year. But now I'm kind of in more like goal-oriented mode. And I would say, like, in my corporate job, what I'm trying to do is just getting my work more recognized, with our senior leadership team, and to continue launching our, employee engagement and career development programs that I oversee. And hopefully that turns out into a promotion, fingers crossed, but we'll see what happens there. And then in my business, my goal is to really exceed last year's revenue and just do some more speaking engagements. I really do like getting in front of folks and sharing, what I'm seeing and how I'm supporting people in their careers. So definitely want to do that. I've done that here and there the last few years, but I definitely think that there's more opportunity there. And I'm also toying with the idea of actually starting my own podcast with a coworker of mine. So we're just, testing the waters, seeing what's what and how we can collaborate. But we'll see what happens.
Fitting a podcast into your day-to-day routine as well. Add
Yeah,
that to the list.
exactly.
Any piece of advice you'd like to leave listeners with today?
Yeah, I think what I would say is, my mission with everything that I do is to empower others to find fulfillment in their work and in their lives. So, my best advice to those listening would be just to stay in tune with yourself, listen, take action when it's time to make a change. Like you're gonna feel it when your body is sort of itching for something new. So, I always like to say that our lives are a series of choices and we really do hold the power of what those choices are and what they'll be. So, my motto is life's too short to be bored, to be undervalued and to be unfulfilled. So just make a choice to change your circumstances so that you can live a life and have work that's purposeful, that you're excited about and that you're proud of.
I love that. I think a lot of people need to hear that right now, me included.
Yeah, it's tough out there right now, right? And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
there's a lot of things outside of our control that you can't control. And I think it's sort of taking a step back and recognizing that, but then looking at what you can, right? Because we do all have the power to make the choices and the things that we can control, right?
Exactly. Doing what we can in a world of uncertainty. And a
Yeah.
lot is just out of our control.
Hmm.
Well, I know you're incredibly busy and I won't keep you from your writing and from your coaching calls, but I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the pod today and just share your journey, share your story, and share all of your valuable advice with listeners. I'll definitely leave just Kelly's information in the show notes below if you're interested in reaching out to her, following her journey, or working with her to seek her coaching services. But I hope you have a great rest of your week, Kelly.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate you having me. This was a great conversation.
Always great talking to you.
You too.
Have a great night and stay warm.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.